Oh, you muted us? Now we're unmuted? Okay, we're unmuted. You're officially live on Facebook with 20,000 people watching.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Life in the Apex, episode number 6. In line with our celebration of Women's History Month and Women Who Ride, tonight we have the pleasure of two guests, Katie and Ashley, who just finished their first ever trip to Daytona. And they're both very recent Harley owners and riders. And so tonight we're going to talk about that. And I'm pretty excited about it because Daytona was pretty awesome this year. And we're going to talk about some barriers to entry for women who ride and some of the choices that they've had to make in their journey to get to where they are today, which some of it is easy and some of it can be a little intimidating, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So before we get started, I want to thank our title sponsor, Geico Motorcycle. Thank you very much for the continued partnership with Tobacco Road Harley-Davidson. And we are super excited. We have a meeting tomorrow, I think, right? Our first Bike Fest meeting with Geico to decide what that's going to look like this year. So we're super excited about that. So again, thank you, Geico, for making this happen and helping us have a lot of the events that we have at the dealership. So welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
So let's get started with it. I kind of want to start the show by finding out a little bit about each one of your journeys to get to this point. Why did you get interested in motorcycling? Kind of how did it start? And just, you know, how you got to that point where you ended up in the showroom, because both of y'all bought your bikes from here. Yeah.
We did.
And you know, how did that process go to where you finally made that trip in and did the deal? So we'll start with you, Katie.
Sure. So I guess I have a pretty short history with motorcycles. My dad had a BMW motorcycle for quite some time that I got to ride on the back of. But I just kind of always knew that I wanted one. Looks cool, goes fast. You know,
what's not to love?
What's not to love about that? And so, you know, I've ridden horses my whole life, and I feel like that's kind of helped. It might sound weird, but I feel like that's helped with the transition.
Mm-hmm.
And I got my license about 2 years ago, so it was all very premeditated. I was like, okay, I know this is my end goal.
Right.
How am I going to make it happen? Well, first step was taking the MSF class. So I did that. I wish I would have taken it here. I didn't actually know at the time that was available, but it is.
We forgive you.
So I got licensed, didn't have a bike to ride on or practice or anything. And then, you know, the stars kind of aligned and ended up moving really close to the dealership and made my way in and got my first 1200 Sportster here at Tobacco Road.
1200 Sportster.
That's right.
Who's your salesperson?
It was, let's see.
You had several people help in the transaction.
Because I think my salesperson was relatively new. So
oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, we had a little bit of help.
Awesome.
But yeah, and I got it in October, Halloween actually.
So very new.
Very new.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've had my license less time than you, but I've had a bike for longer than you.
Yep.
Oh, you were riding dirty.
No, my first bike was a Suzuki Boulevard 750. It was paid for. It was awesome to learn on. Would you make $50 off of that when I traded it in?
It was pretty rough and not safe.
It was not safe, but it was paid for and it was cool to learn on. But
yeah, the salesmen were scared to ride it. when she rolled up in it.
Well, Chris Britt was my sales guy, and I found my Sportster, sat on it, loved it. We went on a test ride. I came back and I just sat there and was like, "This is it. This is the one. Like, I want this." But I was not going to go out without a negotiation.
Yes, I had to throw in bags to make that deal happen.
Yep.
Yes, and it was during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were technically closed. Oh, maybe we shouldn't say that. But yeah, so now you're here, and I think both of you have clicked into the riding community here and made some pretty quick friends where nothing was in common but the bike, right?
Absolutely.
So as all that was happening, kind of talk to me a little bit about some of the things that you thought were intimidating. Actually, let's do this first. Let's talk about the stuff that was just wrong. Like the stuff you thought was one way, and when you got into the culture, you're like, wait a minute, this isn't how this is totally cool. Like, I'm sure there's some of those things that you've come across in your time that, like we're not all Hell's Angels, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I think that was big for me. I didn't come, like I said, my dad rode a BMW touring bike, but it was, just basically to and from work. And
right.
That was it. And I definitely had kind of this preconceived notion that, motorcyclists are maybe like the people you don't want to associate with, which I apologize. I apologize. But that's totally not true. And I feel like the day that I walked in here, and the day that I bought my bike, you guys told me like I've entered into a family. And I feel like that's totally true.
Yeah.
And I feel safe here. I feel like, motorcyclists, whether it's people that I know and have met here or people that are out on the road or people that I've seen on Facebook, like, I just feel like if I was ever in danger on the side of the road or something, like there's just this community of people that are always willing to help.
Yeah.
And be there for you. And so I think that's really cool.
And we saw some of that in Daytona. Matter of fact, we actually had a small overheat breakdown incident in Daytona, and people stopped to help us.
Yeah.
Which was pretty awesome. So
yeah.
What about you, Ashley? What was kind of a misconception until you really got into the culture?
Oh yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, you kind of have that stereotypical, like, you have to look a certain way or wear leather to be a biker and you have to be bad. But I mean, you don't, I mean, you can still be, for a female, you can still be soft and elegant and have a great skincare routine. And then, turn around and get on your Harley and ride off. You don't have to look or act like the stereotypical badass.
Yeah. What was the number one thing that you felt like you had to overcome to get to this point?
Parking.
That's a good one. Actually.
So the riding academy course that I took, that just wasn't a part of it. Like, you rolled your bikes in and the instructor rolled them out, and there was no parking. That was one of the first things I was like, okay, I can get from point A to point B, but when I get to point B, what do I do with it?
Yeah.
And I'm 5'6", so a sporty is like the perfect size for me. But sometimes
the ground is weird. Yep.
I think what I learned was that, more often than not, if you're responsibly, momentum and speed is more often your friend and not your foe.
Yeah.
So like, especially when you're learning the clutch and, the shifting and whatnot, you really, if you can get that momentum going, you're not going to be as wobbly. And I think that's a lot of people's fear, is like when they get on a bike, like,
right.
How am I going to be able to control this? How am I going to be able to keep it up? And when you go to a rolling stop, or if you're trying to pull out, or if you're on a hill, more often than not, if you can keep that momentum going, you're likely going to be okay.
Now, you took an extra course, like with the Highway Patrol, I think it was.
Yeah, I took, so I did that after I got my bike, but it's Bike Safe NC, free course. And
good sponsor, Bike Fest.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Yeah, and I actually came across it through a recommendation, and it was a great course. You do a little bit of classroom work, but you also actually go out on the road with the patrolman, and they're telling you kind of like helping you, what are kind of some of your bad habits, or what could you do better, or what you're doing really good at. And I totally plan on taking that again.
You do it once a month, right?
Well, they do it, yeah. So they do it every month in different locations. So maybe one in Cary, maybe one in Winston-Salem, or like kind of wherever.
And it was free, right?
Yeah, it was free. You just have to register online.
So Bike Safe NC is who puts that on. So when did you take your first group ride?
Oh, my first group ride?
Because it changes the dynamic, doesn't it?
Totally.
Yeah, I think it was probably with you guys. Well, yeah.
I'm trying to remember if you and I rode together before we went on a group ride with us.
It's like not that long ago, but I also can't remember.
We've been on a lot of rides since then, though.
Yeah, I'm almost at 2K miles.
That's good.
I'm at like 1940 right now, and I'm just like, I'm riding it as much as I can to get to 2K. But yeah, I think, if I did ride in a group before we rode out together, it was with some other people that was maybe like 2 or 3 people. So it wasn't a big group, or it was with one other person. But yeah, when you're riding and you're having to ride staggered, and you're having to watch out for hand signals and stuff, like it kind of adds to all of the other things that you have going on. But I think once you get past it and it starts to become muscle memory, obviously it just gets easier as you go.
Yeah, practice.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then in Daytona, we did some massive group rides.
Oh my gosh.
It was so cool, though.
Yeah, I still can't believe it. Now I do feel like a badass. We were the ones stopping traffic. Like when when you roll through the stoplights and stuff, like that was us cruising through with like
70.
Yeah, 60, I think.
It was it's about 75 people.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
it was so cool. But it doesn't feel like the group is that big. At least it didn't for me, because I rode primarily like with the people that I normally ride with anyway. So it didn't really feel like it was that massive of a group of bikers until you see everybody kind of coming around the bend, and you're like, oh wow, that's all. And then you look in the mirror, and there's just a line of people.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
And then you have Jody Perowitz right in front of you.
I know. We got to
Yeah. So in Daytona, we did spend some time riding with Jody Perowitz, fastest woman on a V-twin. And she was riding an Indian. And I mean, it's a big Indian too.
It's huge. It's massive.
Yeah, the Challenger.
Oh, she rides it like nothing.
Yeah. So that's a lot of practice, right?
Yeah. Oh
yeah. I mean, she's been riding since she was a baby. So
one day.
But it was a lot of fun. But even someone as well versed in riding as that, I mean, accepted everybody who was there immediately, and I felt like she was pretty excited that there was some new, especially female riders, jumping into the fray. And
there weren't many. No. I think that's something we noticed especially when we first got to Daytona, we were like eyes peeled for other female riders just to kind of like see what it was like. And at first it was very sparse. But then I think as the week went on, we saw more and more, which was cool.
Yeah.
Towards the end we did.
Of course, we also learned we're not going to try to keep up with her when she's late for a sponsorship engagement, because
no.
Yeah. You just kind of move over and let her go. Yeah.
So let's spend some time on Daytona. You got there. We were prepping to go. You got down there with no idea what to expect. I tried to show Ashley some videos of Daytona, which I think just freaked her out more than anything, because they were a little chaotic. But
they do that. I mean, they make the videos look wild and crazy, and I mean, to a point, Daytona was wild and crazy, but it's a little bit more organized than I think the videos led to believe.
Yeah, it's interesting because people who've never been don't realize that how much space it takes. It's literally 3 different cities. And there's some riding in between all that stuff, and where all the venues are, they're not all together. What I thought was kind of a funny moment is when Katie asked where she buys her ticket to get into Daytona, which to me, that says a lot as a new rider, because you have no concept of what it's like, right?
Yeah, you go to an event and you buy a ticket to get in. So I thought I was being proactive. And one of my many moments of trying to be proactive and ask where I can buy a ticket, but I guess you don't need one.
And we immediately hit Ross Myers. right?
Yeah,
Ross Myers
it's-
Harley-Davidson, which does a fantastic job at putting on that event. They have for a long time. And tell me a little bit about that. We get there, right? We got out of the truck. We hit the vendors and stuff. Kind of what was going through your head at that point, because we hadn't even unloaded a bike yet.
No,
Like, where do what am I looking at? What am I looking for? What's going to be here? Like, I just had no idea. Being new, and not really being in the motorcycle industry, like, I just didn't know, like, what was going to be there.
Yeah.
And there was a lot.
It was sensory overload. I feel that still sometimes.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot going on at once. And one of the first things we got to do down there was visit with our friend Rhett Rotten,
Rhett Rotten,
the Wall of Death, right? And he's an absolute awesome entertainer, and
phenomenal.
He welcomed us right in, yeah, right, and I mean, he put on a great show. It's interesting, if you remember that show. I've known him a long time, I've seen a lot of his shows, so I could tell the bike wouldn't start. The gas wasn't on. Like, he had a few hiccups that most people sideways on the side of a wall would freak out over, and he literally breezed through those to keep the show going. And I could tell, like, he wanted to be frustrated, but so many people wanted to see that performance, and he's a pretty inspirational guy, for sure. His speech always gets me at the beginning.
Yeah.
When he tells all the kids they can do whatever they can be whatever they want to be. And, that he was in high school, he told people he was going to be the Wall of Death rider. And that's what he does. And so that was a pretty awesome way to start the weekend, I thought, was check out that thrill show with him under the pavilion.
Whole thing rattling.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
A piece chipped off, and he just threw it up.
Yeah, as a memento.
Like a piece of the wall just chipped off, and he's just like, no big deal.
I know. He said, "Hey, here's a piece from a wall from 1913."
It was insane. I was blown away. I just don't even know how. It was loud, and it was, windy, and it was, this guy on this old ass bike riding around,
It's pretty impressive.
Very impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what'd you think about the dealership?
Huge.
Wow.
It's giant.
Yeah, it's massive.
Yeah. Escalator in
I
it.
didn't bring my pen.
Oh,
We
your
got our little
hog pens.
hog pens.
Yeah.
80th
Mine's on my
anniversary.
Yeah, it was a good one too.
Mm-hmm.
So the Ross Myers have been in business a long time, and there was the 80th Daytona, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So they did some special stuff there for that.
Yeah.
Staff everywhere we went was so nice.
Yeah, very grateful that we were there. Yeah.
Yeah, very happy that the event was going on. Very grateful, very organized, very helpful. Like, I never felt like at any moment, if I needed something, that I wouldn't be able to.
So I feel like they trained thanking people for coming and being grateful that they're there, because I heard that from every staff member there, no matter what was going on. And they were very helpful.
Yep.
So it was pretty awesome. And I feel like, that is one of those misconceptions that gets broken, because everybody was really friendly.
I did try to save my money so that I could spend it here.
Thank you.
There were some things that I wanted to get, and I was like, well, maybe I'll hold off.
Thank you for being a loyal customer.
Oh, we did see. We were at that. Was it Willie's, the paint show? And there was a guy wearing a Tobacco Road hat there. I thought that was cool, because we were so far away.
Yeah, at the Willie's tattoo shop, Tropical Willie's tattoo shop. So then, of course, I mean, we were all itching to get our bikes unloaded, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And so we bolted down to where we were going to stay and unloaded the bikes, and immediately rode off to do stuff in Daytona.
Yep.
And it was pretty cool. We got a question right there. Do y'all plan to attend Myrtle Beach Spring Rally and experience Suck Bang Below?
Oh God, I can't even imagine what that is.
They're definitely ready for Suck Bang Below. I'm going to tell a quick.
Well, I don't know if I am.
For Brent, I'm going to tell a quick story. We were at the Iron Horse, and they have a burnout pit. They have a burnout pit just like Suck Bang Below, and Katie was like, "Let me in there! Let me in there!" They strap it down. I'm going in there.
We're gonna have to
Yeah.
practice. You have to set up our own.
Yeah,
maybe
we'll set up
behind.
our own here. And we'll
Get a
get our
couple trial
practice in.
runs in. How much are tires on this?
So Suck Bang
Yeah.
Blow is like a small version of the Iron Horse. You
Oh,
ride
okay.
right up. You
Okay.
sometimes let you ride through the bar,
Oh, okay.
and it's kind of a similar setup. It's just a smaller scale.
Okay, I can
Yeah.
go with that.
And no steak tips.
Oh, no steak tips? Y'all, I want to know how many of you have been to Daytona and have had these steak tips, because I kid you not, literally every person that we talk to.
Have you had?
Oh, you're going to Iron Horse?
You
know what they have. Steak tips.
Of course,
Steak tips.
that was one of your other moments of proactivity,
Yeah.
right?
This was, yeah.
We like Katie because she's very well organized and she's very proactive.
I try to be.
So tell us that story. We were going to have steak tips for dinner.
Yeah, so we've been at this show all day, right?
It was Pearwitz show.
Pearwitz
we were
Paint
at-
Show.
we were at the
Paint
Yeah,
show.
you guys worked the booth.
We worked the booth. We signed up the bikes. We took the money. We did all the things. And we knew that the group was going to like want to go eat somewhere because we had all been kind of like working this event. And so we had heard about Iron Horse. We had heard about the steak
1,000
tips
times.
1,000 times. So I was like, okay, the likelihood of us going to this place and getting steak tips is very high. So how do we do that? What do you do in a normal situation? You call a place and you ask for reservations because you want to make sure you have a place to sit when you get there, right? I'm imagining everyone's going to be there. They're all going to be hungry for the steak tips. So why don't I give this place a call? So I did, and finally got someone on the phone, and I was like, yeah, do you guys take reservations? And the lady's like, for what? And I was just like, for food to eat? Like, and she was like, no, honey, you got the wrong number. And I was like, oh shit, okay. My bad. And I still didn't know at that point, but I told Mark and I was like, I tried, but I guess I had the wrong number.
Well, I mean, in all fairness, I was kind of in the dark about it all as well because I'd not been there.
Yeah, we just thought we were doing like
I was like, that was kind of rude to you. Like, she could have been nicer. Like, I don't.
It wasn't until we drove into the actual facility that I was like, oh, okay. This makes sense.
There's no
reservation.
But now I kind of want to know which girl.
I know. Who did I talk to? Why didn't she just tell me I'm an idiot? I guess that's what she was inferring.
But the Iron Horse was cool, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it was
badass.
pretty cool, and but it was one of those parking moments.
Yeah.
It wasn't too bad though.
So, but they tucked us in under there, and again, the staff was awesome.
Yep.
Because they cycled people in and out of there.
Yep.
We did have to help a guy pick his bike up in the street afterwards.
Yeah.
That was a little strange moment, but that's when we left her to go home.
Yeah.
What was your favorite activity of the week?
God.
I know we did a lot, but what sticks out?
Hamster Ride.
Yeah. I
The
would say
hamster ride? Okay,
yeah.
cool.
I mean, how many people get the privilege of doing that with that level of people in the motorcycle world? If that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
And just the sheer amount of bikers that we were riding with. Like,
Yeah.
I just felt like a total badass cruising through town with 70 plus people.
Yeah, and we didn't stop.
And we didn't stop.
Uh-huh. Yeah, they were blocking traffic for us.
I think one of the best things about that group and just like the whole Daytona trip in general is like we're talking about female riders and whatnot. They don't treat us any differently than they do anybody else. If you're a girl and you roll up on a bike, you're just a biker. Like
Mhm.
you're just like they expect you to keep up. They expect you to park your bike. They don't, obviously they're there to help if something does go wrong or if you get yourself in a situation, but there's no discrimination or anything. Like
I feel
you just fit in. You're just one of the guys. Like
I feel like this discrimination or the, I don't know what even you would call it, but that comes from men who don't ride.
Mhm.
That's true.
And, I think we all have gas station stories where we're, getting gas and just minding our own business and somebody needs to butt in. But that's really the only time that I've ever felt like I've had any sort of, I don't know, in my opinion, negative
Mm-hmm.
experience, and it was just likely with somebody who didn't ride.
Yeah, some unwanted attention, if you
Yeah,
will.
yeah.
Which does happen if you're a girl on a bike. Like, I don't know, Mark, if this has ever happened to you or not. But have you ever been sitting at a stoplight?
Only when my hair's down. Only when my hair's
minding your own
down.
business and have a truck pull up next to you and start honking and whistling and rolling down their waving.
Yeah, rolling down the window. Yeah.
Yeah, only when my hair's down.
But that's kind of just.
I mean, yeah,
to be
that
expected.
I could take that as like, like, yes, bitch, I do ride. Hello. But it's like the one particular time I'm thinking about is, I got asked what kind of bike it is. So I told him it's a 1200 Sportster. And, just the kind of shock in his face, and his immediate response was like, "Oh, you can handle that?"
That's your
honey,
bike?
I'm the only one here. I'm the one riding it. Yes, I can handle it. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah. But sometimes, like, the whole rolling down the window and the yelling can be positive too. Because we were out on a ride, and we had a girl. We were at an intersection, stopped, and she rolled her window down, and she just hooting and hollering about how cool it was. And I was like, okay.
It scared me. I thought something was happening because she was over more, and then I realized that this girl was like cheering us on.
Do you remember the moment that the handicapped person in the van, they opened the door, and it was next to TJ?
No.
And he looks over, and I look over, and like the boy was in a wheelchair, just like freaking out, and TJ was giving a little throttle twists to make him excited, and it was just so awesome. Like it was a moment there for a second on the road, and then they closed the door again, and of course then he had to show off a little bit when he took off, of course. But that stuff, it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I do love those moments, and I think that as a female, we're almost a little bit more approachable when we're on bikes than some of the guys are.
Yeah, for sure. I could definitely see that.
And so anytime there's like, I value those little moments when you have little kids that are like looking a little too long, and you start, messing with them.
Yeah, where they're like, waving and you give them a little rev.
It seems like the parents are a little bit more at ease when it's the girls on the bike.
Yeah. So we did the hamster ride and ended up at a killer shrimp place.
Oh man,
Shrimps Are Us.
And again, the staff was amazing.
Yeah.
Shout out to Shrimps Are Us. I don't eat shrimp, but they had fried chicken, and oh my god,
it was to die for.
I got a second plate.
Yeah, so that was a pretty fun day. It was full though, right? I mean, when you ride like that, you're pretty tired afterwards, which I try to warn people who go to rallies, especially when, in our group, we are active from beginning to end. And that was a really good day.
It was a good day.
I'm finding that that's also a theme with the motorcycle community, where you go to ride and then eat somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a thing.
It's a
I'm
thing.
on some Facebook groups, and I'm finding that all these rides are being organized about like where we're gonna go eat, which I think is really cool. But I'm also trying to like lose weight, so we've got this thing going on, Slim Down for Sturgis.
Yes.
So we're gonna not be riding to go eat. We're gonna be like riding to the gym or something.
So Hamster Ride was your favorite thing. How did the paint show day go? What'd you think about that? You registered all the bikes. You got to see all those bikes entering.
Yep.
The people who were building them.
Yep.
Some of the painters. There was some pretty amazing stuff there.
Yeah.
And the winning bike was awesome.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Breathtaking.
It was pretty awesome. And the painter Jody Goodwill is from North Carolina. And he got some good compliments from really high compliments from Dave Perowitz and from the whole Hamster crew. So that was a pretty good day too.
Yeah, for sure.
But busy and exhausting because of the sun and stuff.
Oh yeah, I got fried.
Mm-hmm.
And I did apply sunscreen. So thank you to all the people who told me to apply sunscreen. I was applying multiple, like every 30 minutes. Look at this. This is just who I am. I just get red.
I do think that show is cool because we had a few bikes kind of trickle in there towards at the end, and they were like, I don't know if we should enter. Like, I don't know if my bike's cool enough. Like, instead of at this point looking at all these bikes that have already entered, and we had 45 bikes there, and a couple of the guys towards the end were like, "Oh no, come on, come on!" Of course, we're trying to get the registration, but trying to get these guys to get their bikes in, and some of them did well.
Yeah, they ended up winning. Yeah,
themselves.
Yeah,
they ended up winning some trophies.
Actually placed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I wonder, like, I'm curious. I'm looking at how many people are watching us right now. I'm just curious how many of you have ever like entered a bike, thought about entering a bike,
Mhm.
ever been curious about how to enter a bike. I mean, those are all things that were new to me.
Right.
I mean, again, I come from horseback riding, so we went to horse shows and we showed off.
Mhm.
And people with their motorcycles, hell yeah. You
Yeah.
got a badass bike, you definitely want to show that off.
Right. And there were some cool bikes there for sure.
Yeah.
So you didn't want to leave on Friday.
Right.
You didn't want to leave on Friday.
No, I did not. I did not want to leave on Friday.
But we had to.
We had to.
Do you feel like you missed out on doing anything while we were there?
Well, I feel like I saw some snaps or some like Insta stories of some things like on the weekend. Like I think it was like Burning Bike or something.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That looked like that would have been
kind
cool.
of a closeout to Bike Week.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
However, I
Yeah.
also saw the traffic on the way home.
Yes.
And I am not mad about not sitting in that
So
traffic.
this is why I leave on Fridays.
Yeah.
Because I do that most times I go to Daytona. I leave on Friday, unless there's a show on Saturday and I'm entering a bike.
Right.
But we didn't have any bikes this year to enter, so we left on Friday and we made good time back and skipped all that.
Yep.
It was crazy. One year it took me 15 hours to get home.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. It was just trailer. It was horrible.
Yeah.
It just takes one accident, it's stacked up.
Yeah.
Especially if you're around Jacksonville. So yeah, we ended up spending a little bit of time at the beach. That was fun. It was not turtle season, so we could do a bonfire. That was cool.
Apparently it's shark season though,
It
all
is
year
shark-
round.
Yes, it is shark season. We stayed in New Smyrna Beach. It was the shark capital of the world. And New Smyrna is about 40 minutes outside of all the activities. So every morning we had to get up, we had to roll into Daytona and do a nice ride. Some mornings it was cold and some mornings it was comfortable.
That first
And windy.
Yeah.
First night was little chilly.
I'll tell you what, you ride in some wind
Mhm.
and you ride in no wind and you're like, shit, I know how to ride.
That's right.
It's true.
Yeah. You have to
That's
start to
right.
compensate for it.
Yeah.
The bad
Um,
rides make you feel like the good rides are just a little better. You appreciate them just a little bit more.
Yeah. And when you cross those bridges and stuff, it does change, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's very dramatic in Daytona. And then when you hit the drawbridge and all that, there's you got some different exposure, which was really awesome for being new riders.
For sure.
Have you thought of anything after post-rally, whether it's equipment, whether it's what you want to do to your bike, whether it's a riding style that you just have to do because of what you experienced in Daytona?
Honestly, I kind of want to like learn how to like stand on my bike and stuff and like
I know.
do maybe like a little bit of stunting or something.
Yeah,
Oh,
I don't
no.
know.
Can we get
No.
Cole Freeman?
No,
Yeah,
no,
Cole.
no,
Cole.
no.
Oh, yeah, didn't we talk about like wheelie
Wheelie
lessons?
class,
Yeah, wheelie class.
No. No.
Um,
We let Cole Freeman ride your Sportster, and now we need a clutch.
True. I do need a clutch on my Sportster, and that was kind of an experience too. Handing, this is my first bike. Here's the key to somebody that I know that can ride very well and has a tendency to ride very aggressive. Go, okay, I trust you. It's not paid for yet. Please don't hurt it.
He did good, though.
He did good. He had lots of self-control.
He did. I could tell he wanted to let loose a couple
really
times.
wanted to let loose.
Mhm. But he was very respectful of the bike.
He
And
was complimentary, which is always nice when somebody who can ride big bikes and can do these jumps and stuff gets on your Sportster and it's like, cool bike, and you're like, oh, that's cool.
yeah,
because Sportsters are cool bikes.
right. That's
What
exactly
is-
right.
What is this I hear about? I didn't know this. This is another thing I didn't know.
Yeah.
But apparently there's
Nobody-
like a thing about Sportsters. If any of you who are watching want to chime in about what your beef is with Sportsters, I would love to go at it with you.
You know what? We
Or,
can just
or agree with you if that's the case. I'm happy to
we
agree.
could just rally all the girls that we saw in Daytona on
Yeah.
their Sportsters, and we can
we
just
saw some awesome chicks on
or some
Mhm.
and they were very comfortable, very relaxed, like leg up, just killing it.
I mean, when you're in that environment, fitment is really important, right?
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, when you're on a ride where we're going 70 miles an hour for long periods of time, and then also in town, you know, the fitment of the bike and how you feel on it is important.
Absolutely. I feel like I can whip my thing around, no problem.
Mhm.
You know, and you know, the more I ride it, obviously, the more I get comfortable. But yeah, I couldn't imagine being nervous to like make a turn or like not thinking that I could like, you know, make it or yeah, that would just add to the level of anxiety.
Right.
I think.
And I mean, and I never felt like we couldn't keep up on the Sportsters.
Right.
No.
Not one time.
No.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Main Street.
Oh my gosh, Main Street.
Main Street Daytona downtown.
Who else wants to talk about Main Street? Again, if any of you guys have been to Daytona, chime in. Let us know what your experience is like.
So the first time we went down there, we made the stroll through down Main Street
Yep.
on the bikes, right?
Yep.
You had to profile a little bit. We
Yep.
had to go through, and all the people darting in between you and all that
Mhm.
stuff.
That was one thing I wasn't quite ready for. Is like you're so focused on staying with your people and your pack, and you know, and then out of nowhere, someone will just walk right. You just don't get that. Like especially in the city, people just walk right next to your bike, and you're
Mhm.
like, whoa. Okay, like, it was almost more spooky than other bikes being around you because you kind of get desensitized to that.
Yeah. What did you not expect to see on Main Street?
All the old wrinkly
I think you just leave it at that.
under things.
Oh, the scantily clad. Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
All
I
right.
expected to see some of that, but I didn't quite know. I thought it was going to be more of like a certain demographic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was happy that everyone was comfortable enough to.
So when we watched videos, I feel like I saw a lot of that on bikes, but when we were there, I didn't really see any of that on bikes.
Yeah.
I
You could
saw-
tell who was riding and who was not.
yeah,
Right.
which I've never really looked for before, but when we were there, I caught myself going, they didn't ride. Oh, they rode. I kind of wonder what because then you want to pair up the bike with the person, right? Like, what kind of personality do you have? Because that bike's gonna match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had our little secret place to park from
Yeah.
experience,
Yeah.
right? And that guy was really, really nice. And then what a lot of people tend to not understand is how many people are on Main Street,
Mm-hmm.
and so that sometimes can be intimidating too. And then I tried to get us out of there before dark, just because of all the drunk, the drunk riders
Yeah.
that tend to leave there when it's time to go, and
Yeah.
we didn't want to be a part of that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we didn't want to be a part of that for sure.
But just the sheer volume.
Mhm.
I just couldn't believe it. How many bikes were on Main Street, driving through Main Street, parked outside of Main Street, and all the different kinds of bikes.
I mean,
All
there
the,
was
I mean,
definitely
all the
people back
music
and
that was.
forth.
I mean, some of the sound systems in these things are
Mhm.
insane.
Mhm.
Like, I don't even understand how. But we were jamming out. As somebody would go by.
Yeah, we did the sound show at the paint show too. They
Mhm.
had a small sound show, and there was a really big show on Saturday night. One of the hamsters, Corey Souza, puts that on, and it was at the Hard Rock, I think. And that was the big one, but we were already gone. I hate we missed that one. That would have been cool. It looked really good on the internet. So, what would you do again in Daytona, and what would you not do again in Daytona?
I mean, I feel like we have to have the beef tips again.
The
We
beef
can't-
tips,
you can't,
okay.
like, at this point,
All
if
right.
you had them, you
Yeah.
can't go to Daytona.
I would not
without-
try to make a reservation at Iron Horse. That's what I wouldn't do.
Oh,
God,
Yeah.
I don't know that there's anything that I wouldn't do. I think we did everything. I think everything was great.
We had a little freaky moment with the stunt guys.
Oh,
a little
yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
They got a little close, drifting and stunting and wheeling down the street. But, it's I have done it a lot, so I tried to put us in places where you would get a good experience the whole time, and it would be a lot of fun. And I think we did that.
Yeah. I think if you can, go down with somebody who's been there, done that.
Mhm.
Take advantage of that. We got, we're very fortunate that Mark, I don't know how many times you've been down there,
Mhm.
but just knowing, you just knew, okay, we can park here, or we'll be fine here. If we need to get out quickly, this is where we go. Like, I think if Katie and I had went, maybe just us, our experience would have
jeez.
been, our experience
I
would have
can't
been
even
totally
imagine.
different. Right.
I-
It would be It would be
It would be totally different.
totally
I don't know that we'd be home. We'd probably still live out there. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I do think that like in years coming, I want to do a little bit more research on like watching the progression of these bikes happen and then seeing them at the shows.
Mhm.
So I saw pieces, scattered bits here and there.
Yeah, I
like,
do that.
oh,
I do that pretty religiously every year.
yeah,
Yeah.
watching them, come from nothing and then seeing them at the show, I'm sure is.
Yeah. And some of why I do that is I end up being a judge sometimes. And so I want to see and get to know these bikes because they do develop kind of a personality over time.
Yeah.
And the craftsmanship and the effort is pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your advice for a new rider, female or not, that has not been to a rally, besides try to go with somebody who's been?
Bring your sunscreen.
Bring your sunscreen. That's a good one.
Bring a set of clears if you don't have a clear visor.
Clears are very important in Daytona. Yeah.
And know your limits. Know what you can handle before you go. And just because everybody else is doing doesn't mean you necessarily have to.
Mhm.
Daytona with that many people and that many bikes isn't really the place to push yourself past what you're capable
Yeah,
of.
that's great advice, actually.
And there's no shame in knowing,
Right.
This is
Well,
what can handle.
there was one day that I was, a little on the tired side. And for
You
one
pushed
reason-
through, though.
Yeah, for one reason or the other, I was extremely exhausted. And, we rode out all day. I pushed through. But then when it got to be nighttime and, the rest of the group was going to dinner, I was like, y'all, I'm just going to have to go back because
Mhm.
I don't think there's any way I can get home. I'm too tired. I don't
Yep.
want my eyes closing. I don't want to put myself at risk or any of you at risk. So I just called it quits and went home.
And it was a good choice. It was
Yeah.
good that you did that. And I've done that many a times. Whether it's a really long ride and I want to take a break when I wasn't planning on taking it or whatever the case may be, it's better to err.
And stick
that
with your
way.
group. Like if you're with a pack, sticking together can be very important because if one person takes off one way and somebody else takes it could ruin essentially everybody else's day because then you have all this time invested in finding each other.
Yeah.
Because it's not just as easy of Bob's wearing a blue shirt. Like there's thousands and thousands of people and bikes everywhere.
Mhm.
And take more pictures. I'm mad at myself. I didn't take enough pictures. I know, and I need to get like a GoPro or something because I wish I took more pictures.
I'm
But-
starting a Katie wish list.
Yeah.
Right, she needs a GoPro.
What else do I need? I was talking to somebody about putting cams on my bike.
Oh,
I kind of feel like I need more power.
it's a very satisfying.
It has
moment.
begun.
Yeah.
It's a very satisfying moment was when I heard one of the bikes come in. I went, "That's an open primary." A year ago, I would have been like, "An open what?"
Yeah.
3 weeks ago, I would have been like an open what? But now we know.
Now we know.
Now we know.
So what's next? You talked about doing.
Myrtle, right? That's next.
Yeah, so Myrtle,
Something
yeah,
low.
and Myrtle's nice here because we can make a day trip out of it.
Mhm.
So you don't have to do a whole week or anything like that because we're only 3 hours.
Yeah.
Which seems like nothing now.
I mean,
Isn't
I
that
go out-
funny?
Yeah. I mean, I was just out the other day for like 2.5,
hmm
3 hours.
You start to extend your riding time,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yep.
and then you were talking about maybe doing Babes Ride Out or doing what was the other thing? The thing in Tennessee.
It's like a
It was like girls only.
Shimoto
Shimoto.
or something.
Yeah.
So I feel like one thing that I watched you guys transition from is pre-rally. That was very intimidating. Post-rally, you're planning where your gas stops are going to be, and I literally watched it happen like
Yeah.
right during that week, which is
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then maybe Sturgis, huh?
I mean, I'm down.
We're not doing Snowbound Sturgis for no reason.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, Sturgis is an interesting rally too because it's really a riding rally.
Yeah.
And whereas Daytona, you have everything kind of in several cities, and you kind of go from city to city. Sturgis is long rides into what I think is some of the most beautiful riding in the world.
Yeah. I'm excited.
And there's a lot of stuff going on there and a lot of stuff to see. If you do Sturgis correctly, you will not get everything done the first time you go,
So you have to
and
go back.
you have to go back. Absolutely. Yeah.
That makes sense.
So, awesome. So, anything else you want to add, or anything else you want to talk about that we missed from the rally?
In the rally, gosh, I don't think so. I think we did a pretty good recap.
It was your first time trailering bikes.
Yeah.
That's true, which can be a little intimidating.
Yep.
Oh, the pit.
The pit.
Yeah, when we went to the dirt track race.
Oh, yeah. We didn't even talk about the
Yeah.
dirt track race.
Yeah, I mean, the riding was amazing and they're so impressive, but we met some really inspirational people on this trip. We
Yeah.
really did. Some very cool cats, if you will.
Yeah, so it's flat track racing, right?
Mhm.
So it was a dirt track. It was amazing, and some of the guys in the pits they had no limbs. They were ex-dirt bike racers.
Mhm.
There's a guy there that raced with one arm. I think he actually placed.
I think it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
And a guy that was paralyzed from the waist down and had actually a rig on his bike that helped him steer that bike because he didn't have any feeling. I mean, if you thought you were having a bad day, like these guys, they were inspirational. They figured out a way to get through it. Yeah.
Yep. So if you want to ride and you're a female, just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel privileged to be able to, put two hands on the bars and, swing a leg over. So.
It was pretty impressive. And all the kids too there. That was cool too. It was nice to see all the kids
That's so fun.
running around.
Yeah.
And then we met Crazy Chuck.
Oh, Crazy Chuck.
From the Moonshiners.
Moonshine and Chuck.
That was a really fun afternoon.
Yeah.
He's crazy.
He is. Yeah. We got to sample some of the moonshine.
We did sample a little bit of moonshine and
straight out of the mason jar.
And he had a still there, boxed up,
ready to go at a moment's notice.
I tell you what, if he ever gets pulled in that trailer, he is done.
Yeah. That is for sure.
But that was pretty fun. I mean, he was just enjoying life too, and he was friends with Jody, and we were at the race with Jody, and Cole and that whole group. So that was a pretty good afternoon because Chuck was there. He was going to race in the vintage class, and then the other people that were there with him were racing their flat track bikes. So they were literally hanging out and talking to us between heats and stuff. It was pretty awesome. I felt like getting into the pits like that. We got some backstage passes, sort of.
For sure. Yeah.
In the racing thing, that was good, and the ride out there was awesome.
The ride was really cool.
So good stuff, and usually there's stuff happening at the Speedway. But the Speedway this year was really not activated very well, and there wasn't a lot there, so we didn't even go there. It's one of the things we'll try if and when we go back down there, and they start to do that again.
Yeah.
COVID made some things wonky that are normally going on there. But yeah, Daytona was fun.
Daytona was way fun. If you have the opportunity, definitely check it out. I thought it was great.
Yep.
I would definitely go back.
So now that you're back and you have this under your belt, I feel like you guys have put some effort into kind of flying the flag to get people motivated to, if they have ever thought about riding, to help them with the kind of the intimidation factor and to just do it. And so hopefully you guys continue that because, I do this for a living and I see it a lot. I see a lot of people come in for the first time, or something changes in their life, or they used to ride and come back, or they have a reason why they quit riding. And it's always great to see people come into the industry or come back into the industry, because it is a small demographic, right?
Mm-hmm.
We made a joke earlier that, for Katie, who's single, the dating pool shrunk because now she needs a person with a motorcycle.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
we want it to grow. We want that that camaraderie and all that stuff to really expand. And obviously, I need to sell motorcycles. So the more people that come buy them, the better off we do.
Well, I feel I see a lot of women on the back, right? Like, and I was might be a weird comparison, but that was me with my dad. Like I was on the back, and I just knew I always wanted to do it. For me, most of it was financial. But if you're ever curious if you can do it, you can. It's just a matter of taking that first step. And I would definitely highly recommend taking a class as your first step, because I think that's a great way, usually they have an assortment of bikes, so they can put you on something that's going to fit. And there you can really kind of gauge how you feel about it. And then you can just take it from there.
So I'm gonna piggyback on that a little bit, because I ride my own bike. I have my own bike. I love my own bike. But you know what? Sometimes I want to take pictures. Sometimes I want to just chill. And so being able to ride on the back of Mark's bike is phenomenal. But you know what I do when I'm on the back of his bike? I'm listening. When is he shifting? Where is he watching? Who's in his mirrors? All right, how is he going to approach this? Okay, they cut him off. How fast is he braking? Is he, is he downshifting before? Like, I pay attention to all of that. So if you are a female and you're on the back of a bike and you're thinking about learning how to ride, it's a great experience that a lot of guys don't have because, well,
we don't ride on the back.
But it's a fantastic way to kind of learn and feel how to maneuver the bike yourself by just sitting on the back and observing during a ride.
Yep. Awesome. Well, we've gone an hour.
We made it an hour.
Yes, already.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, 50 minutes actually. But yeah, I told you it would fly by.
It really did.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone else has any questions or anything, let us know.
Yeah.
Whether it's right now or if you guys want to reach out via Facebook or whatever.
Yeah. And you're at the dealership quite a bit.
Yeah,
so
at the dealership all the time. And they have always, that's another thing. It's like there's always events going on.
Yep.
And so
we're usually here.
Yeah, so that's something that I was able to find. Here was actually like a group of people that I met, and we rode out and rode together, and we've ridden together a few times, and it's just really cool. So go to the events. Don't be afraid to talk to people.
That's right. Need some chaperones such as you guys on some outings.
Are we going to be the chaperones? I don't know if you want us to be the chaperones.
Wait a minute, I have to be responsible.
James, they're not chaperone approved yet.
Yeah, no, we have not taken that class yet.
I've gotten a taste of ripping on it, and I'm ready to go. So if you can keep up, let's ride. I'm ready.
All right. Thank you again to Geico for making this happen and for giving us the resources to do the podcast and our own big Bike Fest event, which is going to be coming up in September. So we're excited about that. Thanks for all the women who are allowing us to feature them for Women's History Month and for Women Who Ride. And if you pay attention to our social media and you want to nominate somebody in your life that you would like to see featured who is a lady rider, please follow us on Facebook and on Instagram, and you can click the link and put in your suggestion, and our madam producer will take them and do it. So thank you, ladies.
Yeah, thank you.
You did a great job. It's not very nervous once you get going. And hopefully everybody enjoyed the show tonight and when they watch it later and people learn something, and just do it. Right?
Do it.
That's what we're coming away with tonight.
It's not our
slogan.
slogan.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, we better not say that.
So just do it.
We can do we can do what Rhett says. What does Rhett say? I'm Rhett Rotten and watch me go. All right, good night everybody.